The pages of scripture between the fall and the story of Abraham are few, but they cover thousands of years of human history, and life outside Eden isn't pretty either. Brother kills brother, an entire generation becomes so evil that God feels compelled to wipe it out, except for a man named Noah and his family. However, another curse immediately follows the rescue in the ark as one of Noah's sons exposes the shame of his father. And a prideful people on the plains of Shinar one day, to be known as Babylon, come together to make a name for themselves and ascend to godly heights. Their tower project is abandoned when God scrambles their language, and Babel becomes known as the symbol of futility of human effort, the place where self-exalting plans are foiled. Now, by God's design, history is filled with such frustrations, and there is no way to get to God or solve our own problems on our own. Now, we tend to read the Bible primarily in terms of how it relates to us and what it tells us about ourselves, what it commands us to do, and so on. But it first and foremost, we must understand it is a revelation of God. Think of what God shows us about himself in just the first 11 chapters of Genesis. History from the moment of creation to God's choice of Abraham as the father of nations. God has incomprehensible power. His spoken words can create entire worlds. He takes great satisfaction in his works. In every creation, he states, "It was good." And in the creation story, this is made clear. He gets angry over evil and grieves its effects. The fiasco in the Garden of Eden and the events leading up to the flood show us that. He gives us the sense of his otherness in the creation story, in the fact that he has come down to Babel to see humanity's highest achievement, and we see his foresight in his mercy in the fact that he has a redemption plan ready even before the image bearers distorted the image through the fall. Even before evil's earliest intrusion into the creation, God demonstrated his relentless love. His nature breathes from the pages of the first book of Genesis. We can see it. We all learn about a lot of this about ourselves in the first 11 chapters. We know, for example, that we are created in God's own image. In other words, we are uniquely designed to be able to relate to God intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. We can connect with him at deepest levels of relationship. And why? Because God apparently wants to share who he is with his creatures. Not so that for some reason of loneliness, but so that we too can appreciate the grace and the love and who and what he has done for us. We also know that this image was somehow fractured by the damage by human rebellion at the Garden of Eden at the fall. Some aspects of our communication and connection with God has been lost. Without it, we sink deeper and deeper, skewed perceptions and twisted thoughts, misplaced emotions, and unseemingly actions, all driven self-centered focus rather than a focus on God. And as a result, we forget the mission of humanity, which was given at the garden, is to fill the earth, subdue it, and spread God's garden outwards, to exercise dominion over the world. That was once formless and void, and we begin by pursuing our own agendas and our own missions, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil has given us a heavy doses of independence, and that's always a byproduct of having confidence in our own knowledge.